So welcome to our March ASWS Advisory Committee meeting. Appreciate everyone coming. Let's go ahead to the next slide, Vicki. For the folks who have been with the committee for a while, you're going to see a little bit of different visuals and such, and a couple new set pieces in our deck. Part of that is we are unifying the experience across all of the ESD advisory committees. So such as our equal opportunity statement that is on the board. This is new to the committee, but this is going to be a standard practice for that. Wanted to make certain that everyone saw that we are equal opportunity across the program as an employer. If anybody needs anything, please do let us know. Kennedy and I are here to facilitate that and make whatever accommodation is necessary. Okay, let's go ahead to our next slide. All right. So we are recording this meeting as we always do. Please be advised your image and voice will be captured and recorded during the video conference. Your participation here equals consent to be recorded. Let's talk a little bit about housekeeping. For those who are in the building, thank you for joining us. Thank you for signing in at the security desk. It is appreciated. There are restrooms just out that way by the elevators. Kennedy here is our escort, and she'll be sitting right outside the door if anybody needs to take care of their comfort at any time. Just catch your eye as you're stepping out and she'll help you find where you need to go. We will be bringing in lunch about 12:15. We've got some box lunches on the way. So we will break from 12:15 to 1:15 to have time to just eat. At that time, we will probably, in this room anyway, turn off the Zoom and turn off the TV and come back on a little bit before we're ready to start again. Okay. All right, with that, Vicki, would you like to call the roll?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Joy. John Devaney.
Present.
Mike Gempler.
Present.
Delia Pena.
Here.
Elizabeth Strader.
Present.
Edgar Franks. Michelle Besso.
I'm here, thank you.
Rosalind again.
Rosalind is going to be a little bit late. She'll be online.
Perfect. Thank you, Joy. Jeff Prault.
I'm here. I'll be here until noon.
Okay.
Ignacio Marquez.
Here.
Juan Gamez or Jerry Carrard.
Juan Gomez here virtually, and Jerry is there. Hi, Jerry. Hi, everybody.
And Caitlin Gates. Thank you. Okay, we have a quorum, Joy.
Awesome. As long as we're still on the roll call, though, you please do roll to the next slide. Two announcements for the committee. One, welcoming Caitlin Gates as our new representative from Labor and Industries. So thank you, Caitlin, for joining. Appreciate. And I think we got the note maybe 48 hours ago, maybe 24. So thank you for jumping in so fast.
It's called 36.
Okay, we'll call it 36. So that's great.
Yeah, because I want to see you now. Talk to you, but now I'll check with you.
And the other announcement that I should make, the lead committee members got an email to this effect last week, but Dan Zyden, who had started this committee some time ago, he has now departed our agency. He's gone to private sector. He left kind of quick, so otherwise he would have stayed and, given some nice little goodbye to y'all, but we are stumbling along in his absence, and I can't count the number of times I've started a Teams message to him this week. Been like, wait, that's not gonna work. So, yeah, well, just wanted to let you know if you had any outstanding business with them, just let me know. We'll take care of it. All right. I should have printed that out if I was going to try and read that script. We'll take a look at the agenda. We've done the roll call. We are reviewing the agenda. We will approve the minutes in just a minute, and then we'll have our office update from the Ag and Seasonal Workforce Services office. Then we are going to have an update on the prevailing wage and hand harvester survey. And that will take us to lunch. We'll have a lunch break. When we come back, the Workforce Services Division, we have guests here from the staff Workforce Services Division that are going to give us an update on some of their field work. among other things, I'm certain, Alberta. And then we will finish up by discussing quickly the timeline for our report writing this year, so that we have that in front of us and we know what to expect. We've got some time built in for good of the order and chatting, and then we will be done by 3, so folks can get back on the road. All right. Any questions? Okay. Then let's go ahead and move on to the office update. Bertha, am I turning it to you?
Good morning. How is my volume in the room?
Your volume is good.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. I am Bertha Clayton. I am the director of ASWS. Sorry I can't be there in person today, but I am going to be providing an office update, followed by the compliance supervisor and foreign labor certification supervisor that will give you our regular data. So we will pause after each slide to entertain any questions and kind of let things sink in. These slides were provided in advance. You will be seeing greater efficiency and greater standardization in how we deliver meeting materials to you. And that is in part actually because of the work of a committee in which Vicki Carlson was a critical participant in standardizing the way that we manage our advisory committees at ASWS. So please do give us feedback about whether this is an improvement, any modifications that you think need to be made for the committee's consideration. So hopefully this addresses a lot of the concerns about getting the materials too close to the meeting. So hopefully you'll like that. Okay, next slide, please. Most of my update today is going to center around a issue that we were able to discuss at a very broad level at our January meeting, but we weren't able to discuss in detail because the Department of Justice hadn't issued a press release yet regarding the criminal indictments against 4 individuals that are named in the press release. These individuals are located and do business in or around Yakima and the Tri-Cities, and they have been associated or principals of a farm labor contractor named Harvest Plus. Harvest Plus is a farm labor contractor that had H-2A job orders in 2022, 2023, and 2024. And I have a video that the NBC Now, the local news station in the Tri-Cities area did. However, I don't know if we're able to play that because of the format here. Vicki, can you confirm whether that's been...
Let's try it, Bertha.
Sure.
I'm not sure about the quality, but yes, we'll get there.
Okay, thank you very much. There may be an ad at the beginning, but I know it does take some time to load.
ESD is in no way associated with the choice of that.
People from the Yakima and Tri-Cities areas now charged with fraudulently getting H-2A temporary work visas, among other counts, by the Eastern Washington District Attorney. The 4 stand accused of falsely representing nearly 10 farms in Yakima and Benson counties as needing temporary foreign labor from 2022 to 2024. Operating under the name Harvest Plus, the prosecutor claims they submitted fraudulent applications to federal agencies. The defendants are then said to have lured workers with promises of legal employment, housing, and fair wages, but the workers faced harsh conditions, including unpaid overtime and exposure to chemicals. The federal jury trial will take place at a future date. In a separate case, 2 other people also charged for similar offenses in the area.
Okay, is that it?
I think that's it, yeah.
Okay. I don't think that was the full video, but obviously in this format, it's difficult to share. So we've hyperlinked the video in the chat. It's the top of the 4 that are listed, as well as the other articles and news sources that I'm going to reference as I talk about this today. So let me, if we could roll to the next slide, please. So this is the press release. It is dated February 23rd, 2026. It's from the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Washington. And just to summarize, the Department of Justice press release specifically states that 54 criminal indictments were issued, returned by a grand jury, and for H-2A fraud and mistreatment of H-2A workers. The charges included a conspiracy to defraud the United States, forced labor, identity theft, unlawfully transporting 500 plus workers, having them perform non-approved labor, meaning labor and activities in locations that were not certified and approved by United States Department of Labor. They charged people for housing, worked without overtime, had them work in conditions that were not compliant, overcrowded, had them living in overcrowded housing. They were also found to have lied to authorities and also threatened people, threatened workers and their families abroad in Mexico if the workers spoke or reported the abuse. So there will be a trial, or presumably there'll be a trial. So we weren't able, so ESD is not named specifically in this news release other than a reference to state partners. We're named a little bit more specifically in an article in the Tri-Cities Herald that goes into a little bit more detail about this case and also other cases that we've been involved in investigating in that area. But and the reason for that is because our staff lives in the Tri-Cities. Probably 2/3 of our ASWS staff live in and around Tri-Cities. They were directly involved in working with the United States Department of Labor and with the OIG's office of the Department of Labor. And we didn't want them named specifically just for their privacy, for their protection, etc. When I received the email with this news release from the federal agent at the OIG's office that was responsible for leading this investigation, leading to the indictments, he said that this outcome would not have happened without ASWS. Just to summarize our activities in this case, we first came to know of issues with this farm labor contractor in 2022. It was at that time that we opened an investigation and started interviewing witnesses, workers, etc. We referred this case to the Wage and Hour Division. They issued final findings on this case in 2024, which allowed us then to discontinue services against Harvest Plus. They have not filed for, they cannot, and they have not filed for an H-2A job order in Washington since that time, although there is reason to believe that their associates or principals could be continuing in this industry in some way. And so towards the end of, after discontinuation of services, we communicated with our partners at Labor and Industries and the Farm Labor Contracting Unit and worked closely with them in conferring that any licenses for state farm labor contracting, any applications for licenses would be denied, and also linking individuals associated with Harvest Plus to other potential applications for FLC licenses. So if we could go to the next slide, please. This is a internal blog that that ESD did on February 27th, just basically highlighting the ASWS's role in this investigation. OIG became involved because, well, not because, but after ASWS had worked with the Washington State Governor's Office, Governor Inslee's administration at that time, to escalate this case because of the severity of the allegations. So I'll pause there. I'm sure that you saw this in the news or you've heard about it in the news. I'm happy to answer questions to the extent that I can, but this is a really good outcome for workers, worker protection. It's a good outcome for growers who were duped by these individuals, and also in many ways victims themselves.
Mike.
Yeah, this is Mike Gempler. How did these guys get caught?
How were they caught?
Yeah, what tipped you off if there was something going on? How did we find out?
Well, our office worked in, we were basically the boots on the ground in collaboration with the OIG special agents that worked on this case. And as far as the logistics of the arrest and the charging documents, I don't have that. Perhaps Michelle maybe has some info.
That something was wrong.
Workers stepped forward.
Ah, okay.
There were workers who said, we're being told to get fake documents. We're being told that we're doing, that there will be work, but it's not as Howard came and the workers said, that's not what we came for, and that's not, this is not the way it should be. And
Who did they approach?
well, at some point our office would, I'm sure they may have approached ASWS as well.
Yeah, and I think actually maybe some of the very initial communication was even before I was in this role, meaning I don't really know kind of what the origin was, but there was, we heard from multiple groups of workers. We interviewed many workers over a couple of years. And so this was also connected with other farm labor contractors that we had investigated, and there was some common links as between the individuals. And so in part because of our application review, because of our site visits, we knew that there was issues here, and that's when we got our enforcement partners involved. And Wage and Hour Division, OIG, at the time OIG had just placed a federal agent in Seattle. I don't know how long Washington had been without one. So there was capacity by OIG, and then at the same time, Wage and Hour Division, they dedicated resources to this, but they didn't have very many investigators. So they relied on ESD to do a lot of the legwork, a lot of the on-the-ground interviews, etc.
Thank you.
I do want to say, I thank you, Chris, and it was a good result, and I think it did take a lot of different agencies to make it happen. I would say it took a long time to stop. I mean, Giovanna Sierra, who's one of the people who was indicted, has been operating in Washington for a number of years, and it took a long time to get here. And I would just say, we had talked to L&I, the Farm Labor Contractor Group, about Harvest Plus, and there was a real reluctance at first to deny a license because, well, do we have enough proof? I mean, I would just say it is good that this was the result, and I believe ASWS had a huge role to play, and it's to be commended. We do want to point out that it took a lot to get here, and a lot of time too. I mean, I would say that I would like to have seen one less year of workers to have come under this fraudulent, there were more, you know, it would have been helpful to a whole group of workers if this had been stopped sooner. But that's, of course, me as an advocate for workers, you know, we're never satisfied. But thank you for bringing it up.
And Michelle's right. So the wage and hour investigation actually was, the findings were for, I think, 2022 and 2023. It took them almost a year for, you know, reasons that are unknown to ESD, but it took them almost a year to issue a findings document. And so really monthly, we were following up with them and saying, hey, you know, where is this? That piece of it, as I understand it, is managed in Washington, D.C. So it was a kind of a bureaucratic tangle. And so it took a really long time for us to get that findings document. And the wage and hour division, that is, you know, noncompliance, fines, debarment from the program. The news release here and what we're speaking about is actual criminal charges against the individuals involved.
This is Jeff Brault. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I just want to mention or thank you for dealing with this. It doesn't bode well for anybody to have this kind of activity. So, as a grower, I am thankful that this is getting resolved and people are getting charged.
Yeah, and also, and again, as I said, you know, we're not here to take credit for this result at all. I mean, this is also an investment by the DOJ and you know, prosecuting these things, you know, the Eastern District and prosecuting these things. We're not here to take credit for it, but we are here to emphasize that this is bad actors that are abusing the H-2A program, obviously abusing human beings. And so also, this is a good buyer beware moment for growers to make sure that you know who you're getting into business with and make sure that you're checking the L&I farm labor contractor status to make sure that these people are legitimate, that they don't have complaints against them, that they don't have any violations, etc. And so Harvest Plus was not on the L&I violation list, so it would have been hard for growers to know. And also it makes it hard too when individuals are associated with different business entities as well. So so it's important, I think, to note that this was definitely a collaboration and that this sends a message to people that we have mechanisms in Washington to ferret this out and to hold people accountable.
Mike had a question and then.
Support. Yeah, was there a job site run by this company visited by the ASWS team at any time in that 2-year period? And
Yes, multiple times.
Discovered it by interviewing workers, you know, looking at the contract to see if they were in the right place.
I believe that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, multiple times. It got complicated fast, though. It got very complicated because one of the allegations is that we discovered was that they were using their manufacturing documents to give these workers other names. They were coaching them as to what to say. They were threatening them with if they spoke, then you know their family members in Mexico would be visited, or you know, etc. So yes, we did multiple times, and we did seek to bring. I think I'll have to look back at the file, but we did seek to bring discontinuation of services as well. But once we once we knew that Wage and Hour was going to issue findings, then we decided to bring it on that basis.
I think one of the key things is this is a huge success. And it's exactly why 6, 7, 8 years ago, this team and this committee were formed, you know, to provide that extra layer of compliance and assistance in this space. it's also, we may have had other things that have gone to prosecution, but this is by far the biggest that I can remember. And it's a great thing to celebrate, and it is great to learn from. I think it's a place where we can do our after action, we can look through where could we have completed this sooner? What could we control? What could we not control because it was federal? That sort of thing. And I'm looking forward to continuing to do that with the team. It could be something so simple as, before this started, Bertha, I don't think our team got a lot of training in, say, human trafficking.
No, and as a matter of fact, because of this case, there has been more emphasis in the human trafficking task force, the statewide task force on labor trafficking. Most of it has, mainly focused on sex trafficking. So this is having other ripple effects as to how state agencies, how we're going to design how we work together to report, to identify, et cetera. I will say, and I can't mention his name because this is a public meeting, but we had one staff member in particular that was instrumental. And without his dedication to this case, they probably would still be in business. And so we didn't have any, we kind of had to build it as we went. And, obviously all this work was supervised so that it was, as safe as possible. And, mechanisms were put in place so that it was, safe, but, there was no guidebook for this. And so it really is because of one staff member in particular, his efforts.
Thank you. Going back to what Joy just said, is that it is a success, and I think, is there going to be a time where
Excuse me, you cut out. I can't hear you.
State enforcement agencies can,
Just speak up, sorry.
I'm sorry, where the state enforcement agencies are going to get together and sort of look at this and say, this was a success, but here's some things, like you pointed out, that we need to look for. We need to do better. We need to, fill in those gaps, whatever that is, because 2 years is a long time when we know by looking at it is like, this is illegal. This should be not.
Right.
Well, I would say probably 3 years. I mean, it took 2 years once, Wage and Hour Division got involved, but, at least as far as we know, 2022 was the kind of the first information we had about it.
Yeah, so, and among the industry, people knew something was wrong with this company, with this business, but they couldn't pinpoint it. They couldn't say, this is what's going on. So, we got to look back and say, we got to do better about.
No, exactly. I want to do an after action on this. I haven't talked with Bertha explicitly about it yet, but I do want to get into where were those inflection points throughout, and where were our partners?
Joy, I would really like to participate in some form, because we were very active from the beginning. We brought a civil case on behalf of legal workers against Harvest Plus. And I think at some point, either just giving some feedback as to where times when we tried to get some response and where maybe, right, we could. I agree, it is a success. But it is a great opportunity to look at opportunities.
Because this isn't going to stop it. This is not going to be the last time this happens. And we want to catch the next one quicker. And, the system wants to catch the next one quicker.
But, the second one, there's a related, right? There was Harvest Plus, and then there was Marquez Farms, and they're both. And ESD did find the Marquez Farms very quickly based on one of those visits to a farm, where they do those initial visits when people first arrive, and very quickly said, whoa, there is no, this employer did not ask for this number of workers, and there's something really wrong here, and I think that went much more quickly than the initial.
Yeah, that's my point. That as soon as somebody in authority finds that there are H-2A workers working where they're not certified to work.
Right.
It should be shut down immediately to allow them to continue to work.
Right.
That for any time is ridiculous. And so I think that should be examined. How to quickly shut it down if people are in the wrong place. Yeah, people are gonna have liability down the road, you know. I had a farm call me last year where we had a contractor bring people, found out they were H-2 workers.
Mhm.
He never asked for H-2 workers, then made an application. I said, get them the hell off your property right now and report the contractor and because you're gonna be liable. You know, you're gonna be in a case, just get them out of it right now. And so it does happen and we're very sensitive to it. We don't want to be involved in that. I would think that the state would want to shut this down.
But see, that's where that requires the agriculture industry too, because ESD just goes to the housing, right? They are not in the fields necessarily. Well, like when a new group arrives.
Yeah.
In other words, would you know if they're working somewhere different? Not necessarily. I mean, maybe if a worker volunteers where they're working. But who knows when they're on their property are the farmers, and I think it would be helpful also if there's like, wait a minute, if they also reported to ESD.
Right.
That this was going on, you know, it's part of the picture.
Yeah, I'm certain, and I think we should probably move on in the discussion. What I'm hearing from you all is that definitely want to come back to this with more information and hear some of our analysis on after action, because I think there are spaces where the state could have had more power to shut things down. I don't know exactly where it comes in. I do know that the overlapping jurisdictions here could have gone. I'm guessing that there are material differences between the Harvest Plus case and the Marquez Farms case. But all of that, I don't necessarily have the knowledge in my head right this moment. And but your questions are fantastic and I want to take them because it could be, is there something we need to strengthen in state law to give us more power to shut this down quickly? Is there something that we can do, with our state agency partners? You know, how can we manage that? I really want to dive into that. I want to take this forward in that way. So, does that sound like a positive way to move forward? I'm really excited that you are both engaged on this, and I think I've seen some comments pop up on the screen that I can't quite make out because it's so far away.
I'm happy to read them, Joy, and also to state that please also remember that ESD is not an enforcement agency. We don't have any we don't issue violations. We can't levy fines. So I just want to point that out, that our tools were very, very limited. So that's why the work with our partners was so critical in this space.
Yeah.
So there's a comment from Enrique Gastelum. I would like to commend the ESD staff for helping identify these egregious issues. Our workers deserve better, and this type of an employer only creates problems for good operating employers and the community as a whole. And John Devaney says, is there a mechanism for this committee to nominate the ASWS employee who helped with the investigation for a recognition award? I understand anonymity may need to be preserved, but in his or her record.
And to that, we can definitely look into that. So.
And there are things already in motion, but he's on this call, so I'm going to stop right there.
Nice.
Exactly. All right. Bertha,
Hey,
do you want to get us to the update? I want to be sensitive to, we've got a couple topics to do before.
Sure. I just have one more slide, and it's really kind of more of an FYI. Vicki, if you could please. So the DOJ also, the Washington State Office of Attorney General released a press release on March 2nd, advising that there's been a a settlement agreement in the Cornerstone case. Cornerstone is a employer in Central Washington. And there is, so for those who worked at Cornerstone Ranches, Cornerstone Orchards, of course, Cornerstone Farm Management between January 2021 and December 2025, there's instructions for them to contact the Attorney General's office to I'm assuming, determine their eligibility for any potential compensation. So the messaging to my staff has been, and the State Minor Advocates messaging to the MSFW staff has been, that if we work with a customer who is an employee of, or has been an employee or is an employee of Cornerstone Orchards, to not ourselves determine eligibility or analyze or anything, but just pass along this information and this contact information so that they can get the info that they need. Any questions about that? Okay, that is it for me, and I believe Petra Maras is up next. Oh, excuse me. No, actually, maybe I do have a couple more slides, and yes. Okay, so just very, very quickly, Chairwoman, do I have about one more minute to go? Okay, sounds good. Okay, so just as a reminder, you've heard this in this meeting for the last few months, but I just want to emphasize it and also state that this rollout's been pretty well received, and there hasn't been a lot of bumps, and I think that's in part because of ESD's really strong working relationship with DOH. So just to confirm that for H2A housing in which there are 10 or more occupants, there's no change in the process from last season. DOH is going to do your pre-occupancy inspection, they're going to do your post-occupancy inspection, and you require a DOH license, exactly as you've been doing it. So there's no, this kind of traditional H2A housing is what the majority of our housing, or of the housing on applications. So there's no change to that process. Next slide, please. Also, there's no change from last growing season regarding ETA 790s that have transient accommodation housing. This is like the hotel motels that have been converted into temporary worker housing. As you all remember, DOH engaged in rulemaking to, actually, I don't know if it was rulemaking, but DOH engaged in messaging to employers that housing would need to meet the temporary worker housing standards. And they did a lot of work with operators one-on-one to make sure that they understood those new rules. We're working with employers to make sure that they understand that the operators that hold these licenses have to meet these requirements. So there hasn't been a lot of bumps this year. Last year was the first year for this, but so far it's going okay. Next slide. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, this is Rosalinda. I joined a few minutes ago.
Hi.
On your previous slide, can you move? So is this like a real housing location? Or is this like a drawing of one, or does this really exist?
This really exists. It's in our photo library. I don't have a location of where it is. It's used on the slide to exemplify that this housing type is in the 10 and over and is subject to DOH's just regular temporary worker housing licensing process.
So I just wanted to comment that this looks like a hops field. Is that correct?
Appears to be.
Yeah, so I just want to say it's like right next door, unless this is an organic operation, it's right next to a field that probably gets sprayed with pesticides or other chemicals, and the housing is right next door to it. I just had to mention that what are the rules for that, or unless this is an organic farm. I just wanted to call that
Sure.
out because it's dangerous.
Do my colleagues at DOH want to take that maybe?
Well, I mean, this is Ignacio with Department of Ag. I mean, from where I'm looking at it, it looks like an orchard, and I can't tell you whether it's organic or not. But there are rules or laws prohibiting anyone from spraying when someone is in housing. So they can only do it when if it's within a certain distance of that area. Either they can't spray or they have to ask the people in the housing to move out while they spray, if it's within that area. But I don't know the exact distance that they have to be away from the place where they're sprayed. So I don't know if that answers your question, Rosalinda.
I know about that. I'm just like just looking at the distance. I just wanted to point it out. I need to think about it some more.
Yeah, noted. And again, I don't have a citation for this image. It was just kind of used to demonstrate the type of housing. But thank you for the comment. Next slide, please. So then we've got our 9 and unders, which meaning 9 or fewer occupants. Traditionally, this housing, well, for 9 and fewer occupants, DOH does not require a license, nor does it have the authority under its own rules to inspect and license. Since in the 2026 growing season, because LNI is no longer doing this work, we have worked with DOH to require ESD require a license to if you intend to use this housing as H2A. That a lot of communication went out about that, throughout late summer last year, the fall. It's going okay, but that is something that's new this year, as is the range housing. So on the right-hand side is an RV that is very similar to which is and is pretty standard for what we see for range workers, and those are being inspected by ESD this year and indefinitely moving forward, and no DOH license is required. Please do note, though, that DOH and LNI do retain authority for any post-occupancy issues, but our entire staff has been trained to do these inspections. We actually just went out on an inspection, 4 of our team, to train in inspecting 6 RVs. And so that the analysis and the actual housing certification, compliance certification, that analysis is done by our FLC team. Next slide, please. Just very quickly on field checks, these slides were submitted before it rained on this day, and so this field check actually happened the day after. And it rained very heavily on this day in Tonasket, and so field check happened the day after, and unfortunately our partners were not able to attend because of the very last minute time change. But we do have a field check scheduled in the first of next month, or towards the first of next month, where we will be coordinating with our DOH and LNI partners as per our field check agreement. Next slide. And just my usual reporting on discontinuation of services during this reporting period, 0 have been initiated. And I'll skip this slide for now. I think that's my last one. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, or good morning still, close to the afternoon, everyone. Today I will be reporting on the H2A data. Can you guys hear me okay?
Be fine, thank you.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you. And the table on your screen gives an overview of the number of applications submitted and the workers requested for the current program year from October 1st, 2025 through February 28th, 2026. We have received a total of 186 job orders, applications, clearance orders with a 25,100 workers requested. 129 of those applications have been certified. This means that Department of Labor has approved those job orders and certified them to for the employers to be able to bring those workers in. And those applications have 17,741 workers requested. 2 of those applications have been denied. This means that they were not approved. 46 applications out of the 186 are still being worked on. They are still in the requested status. Those applications have 5,108 workers requested. And out of the 186 applications, or 186 applications, 9 have been withdrawn with the workers requested of 2,249. This means that these applications will not be certified or approved. There was some either language or some information that we did not approve. So these applications will not be approved at all. Next slide, please. Thank you. And this slide shows the number of applications and workers requested by ASWS. As you may see on your screen, Central Basin has an application submitted of 51 with 10,498 workers requested out of the 186 applications. So Yakima has 24 applications that were submitted for that area with 3,014 workers requested out of the 25,100 workers requested in the state of Washington. And next slide, please.
Petra, does the Skagit number include Wacom?
Yes.
Okay.
Some of the offices, there are like small offices, and some have more number of counties included. For example, Grace Harbor has a lot more, like 5, I believe, counties, since it's a smaller office. In the case of Columbia Basin, there's only 2 counties, but it's a bigger area. So yes. Thank you. Any other questions before I move to the next slide? Okay, and this slide gives us the number of active contracts and workers by ASWS. What this means is out of the 189 applications that were submitted, they're not all active. There's 77 contracts that are active. This means that there are workers working on sites for these 77 applications. And as you can see in Central Basin, there's 21 applications that are active, and you may see the rest of the ASWS or the areas, and Columbia Gorge has 1. Any questions?
Are you gonna have a slide of how this compares to last year, Rebecca?
We don't have it in this particular slides, but we can definitely do that and compare for last years. But what I can say is that because of the staggering, we have less applications, number of applications. We're about 80 applications less than last year's, but the amount of workers is about the same, the workers requested.
Petra, what do you mean by staggering?
So there is a rule change that changed last year where employers had to submit, and I'm going to give an example, had to submit an application for the start date of need. So for example, if an employer wanted to bring 100 workers, let's say, and he wanted to bring 50 in January and 50 in March, he would have to, the employer would have to submit one application to start date of need in January and another one to start date of need in March for those 100 workers. And now that employer can only submit one application, and he may include those 100 workers with different start date of need in one application. So meaning in one application, he can put now January and March in the same application.
Thank you.
And Petra, just to confirm, they don't have to just file one application, but the policy change gives growers or applicants the flexibility to have staggered arrival of workers instead of requiring one application for each date of need.
Correct. But if an employer is going to stagger, they must list that in the application in the ETA 790.
Petra, this is Ignacio. I have a question. So Central Basin has, on this slide that you have right now, it shows 5,054 workers. That doesn't necessarily mean that those workers only work in the Central Basin area, correct? Is the employer allowed to have them work in a different area, say like Okanagan or Yakima, which are sort of the closer ones, or even Wenatchee, I guess, right?
Correct. And just to add, that site says the Central Basin has 5,054. Those are the workers requested and approved. That doesn't necessarily mean that all the workers came, either because of visas or something happened. And yes, the employer could listed work sites in all over Washington, as long as they have housing nearby. And how we FLC determine where to put that application into depends on how many work sites. So if an application has 5 work sites and 3 in Central Basin and 2 in Kennewick, then we go by the number of who has more work sites. But yeah.
So Petra, is it no longer the case that it has to be within certain areas? So in other words, one clearance order would be within a commuting distance?
Yes and no. So not one application has to be in that, but if an employer is going to say, for example, that they have work in Central Basin and also in Yakima, there has to be housing in that application that it's near Yakima. So they can't just say, oh, I'm going to have the workers in Central Basin and, pretty far. But if it's within the 75 miles, we see that DOL approved those. If it's longer than that, employers can choose to put language as of something like that they will be paid and things like that. Or they have to list a housing that is closer to the areas of the work sites.
But what about local workers? So if I live in Yakima and I want to apply for a job and this employer has work all over the state, which some of our larger employers do, are they required then to agree to work at any of the work sites in the clearance order, even though some of them are 4 or 5 hours away?
So we look at every application, and when there is a distance like that, DOL will either question or we will question before it hits DOL or it gets to DOL, and we will educate the employer. We use this thing that Bertha brought up, that domestics are kings. And if an employer is going to hire the domestics, they have to give them more benefits than to the H2A. So for example, if we refer a domestic worker, we specifically talk to the employer and we tell them that they have to provide the closest work areas for the domestics, but also there has to be housing, and the employer must give housing to the domestic workers if they're not able to go back home. So let's say if for whatever reason there's no work nearby, but the job available for the work sites for this week, for example, it's in, I don't know, I'm just going to name something in Okanagan, then the employer must give the worker housing if the worker is not able to return to their house that same day.
I can see where that could happen in weather in when there's weather issues. Yeah, with driving. But I also had a question. Is there a reporting mechanism to know when the workers are moved and to where? I bring this up again because of climate, what issues and fires and smoke. Again, that whole safety thing of knowing where the workers are. I'm just wondering if they're being moved around, do we know when that moving happens?
We don't. We just make sure before we certify the housing that there's enough housing for the workers. So even though they get moved around, we assure that there's going to be enough beds for workers to be in the housing. We are also asking for lease agreements if there are lease housing to make sure that the employer is actually being accurate with the information given, not just because they say, oh, I'm going to bring workers in this house and I'm going to have 10 workers there. We're actually verifying that with lease agreements, and DOH is making sure, that all the inspections are happening and that we don't have a specific where the workers are going to be. But we do ask if an employer, for example, leases, I'm going to say 100 beds, and they only need, I don't know, 90, for example, in this job order, and then the next one has 10. We do verify and ask the employer to let us know how many workers will be in what housing. But there's no mechanism on like Monday, I'm going to move them here, and then Friday, I'm going to move them there. We don't have that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Margarito, you're next, if there's no more questions for me.
Thank you, Petra. Can you move the next slide, Vicky, please? Hello, my name is Pablo Cabrera, the Compliance Unit Supervisor. Happy to be here again. I will be presenting data on site visits, field checks, and compliance for the period October 1, 2025 through February 28, 2026. Next slide, please. In the upper right corner, you'll see the number of site visits, which is the site visits we conducted during the I'm sorry. And from those site visits, we contacted 3,628 workers. In the next box, you'll see information on field checks. We completed 2 field checks, and each one was tied to a single job placement. And in the lower left corner, you'll see the total number of complaints received. We received 47 complaints in total. Of those 47, 32 were informally resolved. 1 is in process. We are working on that one. 13 were referred to the appropriate enforcement agency. In the lower right corner, you can see the complaints by type of allegation. 6 were wage related, 4 involved discrimination, 3 housing, 3 involved health and safety, 3 involved human trafficking. And the remainder of complaints fall under other category. In the next slide, I will show you the type of allegations on those complaints.
Margarito, I'm just curious about the human trafficking complaints.
Yes, Berta, do you want to expand a little more on that? Or Susana?
Rosalina, can you expand a little bit more, just like, you mean like the nature of them, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've seen this before in your complaint, the types of complaints.
So human
they're-
trafficking, yeah, so it's listed here because these are like the types, and you'll see they look kind of out of order. The reason that they're numbered like this is because in our reporting that we do to the federal government, these are the kind of pre-selected buckets, and then we have that other bucket, to kind of capture everything else and give you a little bit more details about what they're related to. I don't have the details on these 2 complaints before me. So, Margarita, do you or Susana have that?
We can also look it up and send it to the committee with the minutes.
I would like to know if there was human trafficking, what was the nature of it, and was that resolved, and how was it resolved?
Yeah, let's take that back and we will follow up with the committee with that information.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay. Next slide, please, Vicky. In this slide, you can see the types of allegations that from the 27 complaints that I was talking about before of the other category. So 11 were related to worker recruitment, 10 complaints were related to worker termination, 3 involving supervisors misconduct, and 1 fraud, 1 complaint regarding lack of breaks, and 1 employee was targeting workers. Next slide, please. This data is from October 1, 2025 to December 31st, 2025. So in the first box, you'll see the number of workers requested match, 18 match and 15 did not match. And for housing locations, 32 match and 1 did not match. And on working locations, 31 match and 2 did not match. And we have a total of 2,558 workers requested and a total of 2,304 workers receive.
Margarito, I have a question for you, but so does Michael. Let him go first.
Go ahead.
Yes, the top category for other complaints was worker recruitment. Were those complaints primarily from local workers saying that local workers weren't hired when they were H2 workers, or were the worker complaints about worker recruitment from the H2A workers?
It's from domestic workers that are being rejected. Usually employers didn't want to hire them because they say that they already have H2As, things like that, but we talked to the employer and resolved the issue.
Thank you.
How did you resolve the issue?
Well, we talked to the employer and educate the employer and tell them that they must hire the worker, because if it's willing and able to work to do the job, they must they must hire the worker until if the contract is between 50%.
Okay. And it's the same with worker termination? Those were local workers?
Those are, I think the majority are H2A workers. Usually this happen mostly at the end of when the contract is ending, or it happened also in the middle at the start, but it happened most at the end of the contract, because they are not afraid to, to talk or to speak.
Yeah, the ones that we were referred to a different agency, 2 questions is, do you have a breakdown of how many were they 50% federal, 50% state? And then is there some kind of tracking mechanism to find out whether they're ever going to be closed, or do we just leave them and leave it up to the agency to resolve it?
By law, we have to follow monthly with the enforcement agency and track the complaint until it's resolved. We usually call the enforcement agency or call the worker and get updates monthly until it's resolved. And we're going to make sure that the complaint is resolved.
And as far as the breakdown of whether it's federal or state, or even county, I guess?
Yeah, we usually track that too in our complaint log, if it's resolved at the state level or resolved at federal level.
You have any more slides, Mother?
No, that's my last slide.
All right.
Thank you.
Jerry has a question for you, Doug.
Regarding your housing complaints, can you elaborate a little bit more on those?
On housing complaints?
Yes, please.
Well, usually are complaints that they don't have, appliances, or that something is wrong with the housing. But or sometimes in the field checks, we find out that they don't have fire alarms or fire extinguishers, things like that. Or yeah, but usually we don't get as many as those as other allegations.
You're quite licensed already.
I think we can follow up internally on
That's fine.
what that looks like. So,
Any,
all right.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
thank you.
There should be a mechanism to share
Yeah,
that. Or
exactly.
put that in the record for
Right.
Department of Health.
We're not being notified of those.
Right.
We will fix that. We can do that. All right.
I just want to jump in here. So we don't have the data right in front of us, but if it's a housing complaint, DOH knows about it. So we don't have the housing data like in front of us, but Jerry, I don't want you to have that doubt. So we'll get you that data as soon as possible.
Thank you for that.
All right. One topic stands between us and those lunchboxes that we have outside. So Josh, do you want to talk to us about our peak employment stuff? Oh, and also Mongo, thank you very much. That was an excellent report out. You too, Petra.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joy. Yes, I can definitely do that. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So thanks for having me here. I'm Joshua Mall, Labor Economics and Econometric Analysis Manager for LMIR, the Labor Market Information Division here at ESC. I'm going to speak to you very briefly and hopefully get you off to lunch quickly about the Agricultural Peak Employment Wage and Practices Employer Survey and the Seasonal Agricultural Worker Survey updates. For the employer survey, we're going to be talking about the 2024 survey and the 2025 survey. And for the worker survey, we'll be talking about the 2025 survey. Thank you, Vicki. So first off is let's talk about the 2024 employer survey. During August 2025, after some rounds of stakeholder engagement, ESD, myself and my colleagues submitted the 2024 survey results to the USDOL, which included a different approach to population estimation, where we found that the previous statistical methodology was no longer tenable due to a simultaneously decreasing number of establishments in Washington state and a decrease in survey responses. So we came up with something that we dubbed the population minimum approach, and we stakeholder that during August, and we submitted our proposed methodology and results to USDOL, soliciting their feedback and their advice on whether or not this would be a permissible method to estimate, at a minimum, agricultural establishments and workers as it pertains to the survey. However, we were notified on January 29th, 2026, by letter from USDOL that the population minimums methodology did not meet their requirements. In that letter, they suggested that we use the quarterly census of employment and wages, QCW, EQI data set to establish population estimation so that we're in compliance with their suggestion. Excuse me. And since then, we have been working to revise the overall employer report and do a little bit more of data wrangling and estimation so that we can resubmit these 2024 results to USDOL by the end of this month. Next steps on that is next week, for those that are on our stakeholder distribution list, you will see an email from me, and that email will contain the revised report and details hopefully very clearly the methodology and the implications of using what USDOL has suggested us to use. Any questions on 2024 resubmission? John.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Could you share a copy of the letter from USDOL where they make that recommendation and reject your earlier proposal?
Absolutely. That's actually something that we have as an attachment in the report that whomever will be on the distribution list for that email will be able to see.
Great, thank you.
No problem. All right, and then let's go ahead and just move on. Vicki, can you go to the next slide, please? So the 2025 employer survey results, we have not quite received them yet, but the administration period lasted from November 2025 through March 2026, approximately 6 weeks. That's normal. We will receive the responses from our vendor WSU and the data by April, and our next steps for that are going to be to analyze the responses and then present those responses to, or not responses, but those results to stakeholders and then eventually submit to USDOL. Any questions on that one? No. Vicki, next slide, please. And then here we're just going to briefly talk about the 2025 seasonal agricultural worker survey results, which is held under RCW 5038070. The administration period began in June of 2025 and was closed during December of 2025. This is the survey that we collect both field and phone responses. We have received that data here in Figure 2. You can see a little snapshot of how many responses we got per crop. We have that data wrangled and ready to go. We also have that report ready to go and submit to the legislature, hopefully by the end of this month as well. Any questions on that one?
Josh, the blueberry number, is that Central Washington or Northwest Washington?
It is all over the state. Yeah, and in the report that the legislature is going to be able to see, and the report is one thing that the public can see, and it'll be posted, at least last time it was posted on a front-facing website. There is detail in with regard to the geography that was explored to collect these responses.
Could I ask why the public can't see it?
The data?
Yeah.
The public can't see the data because it was collected under a pledge of confidentiality under Title 50, which holds survey responses collected for statistical purposes be held private and confidential.
But we'll see right now, see anything about wages. I don't see it. I'm trying to look at the slide.
There's no wage information on that, but Josh saying that wage information would be in the report?
I can get back to you on that.
Okay.
It's 156 pages.
Oh gosh.
So it's a very large report. I'm not going to promise you that they're there. Our vendor, as it is stated in the RCW, is the one that generates the report.
So when you say the number, like Apple 542, those are 542 responses from
respondents.
Workers?
Yeah,
Respondents?
542 workers that we collected in the field.
Okay.
But the report will be public, right? Or is it not? I mean, I'm confused. Is the report public?
The report will be public. The data itself, the RCW asks us to send unredacted data to the appropriate legislative committees. And that data is held private and confidential under Title 50.
And when did you say the report was going to be ready?
We're going to send it to the legislature at the end of the month.
And you can send it to us also, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can point the ASWS committee to where it'll live. Sure.
That would be great.
We can make sure that gets to the us.
Any other questions?
Josh, if you help make sure that I'm on the stakeholder list, I can also make sure that the stakeholder email also gets circulated to the committee.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. So we'll take those action items to make sure that you get that information. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm 4 minutes over. Are there any other questions?
You did great. Thank you.
And if there are extra questions, here's my contact information along with my colleague.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you.
Right. Now we're going to take lunch. We will be back at 12:15. I'm going to go ahead and mute and turn off the camera for the room, and we will return. Thank you so much. Again, please. Awesome. All right, so we are back, and we'll continue with the agenda. And our main topic this afternoon is the Workforce Services Division update. So, Alberto, I turn it to you, sir.
Thank you, Joy. For those of you that are joining online, again, my name is Alberto Isior, the Assistant Director of Operations for our Workforce Services Division. And how we mainly deliver our services is through the WorkSource system. And really excited to join you today to talk about our services and expand a little bit more. So there's three key things I want to accomplish today during our time. One is I want to provide just a real brief staffing update, addition to our team that I'm really excited about. Next, I will go over our standardized data, and it's something that I look forward to answering your questions and something that we're continuing to build upon. So again, look forward to your feedback. And then we will end by having two of our outreach members present today. What I've found in this committee is that you often have questions about how we perform outreach. Who do we serve specifically? What's our focus? Who do we partner with? And there's nobody better to speak to that than the folks doing that work every day. So for that reason, I am joined by two of our outstanding team members and really look forward for them to talk to you about the work that they do and to answer your questions as well. Next slide, please. So one key update that I have for you, and Ricardo is joining us online here today. Ricardo Arce has joined our central operations team. Ricardo is a supervisor at WorkSource Sunnyside. And one of the things that I shared with you before, right, it took us a while to finally get the right candidate in Jenna to join our team. But we accrued a little bit of vacancy savings. And with that, that allowed us to leverage that vacancy savings to bring a little bit more support for the team. We have a lot of work to accomplish, and it allows us to bring in somebody who has a lot of experience in the field, not only as a supervisor over multiple programs in our WorkSource offices, but WorkSource Sunnyside is one of the key offices that serves a lot of farm workers in our state. And Ricardo also performs outreach, by the way. I've seen him in several community events, actually over the weekends, even there in Granger. So we're just really excited for Ricardo to join us. Ricardo, I don't know if you're online there, but would welcome you saying a few words.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Alberto. I just want to confirm, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, I am very, very appreciative, and I'm very fortunate to have been given the journey that I have been able to accrue through my lived experiences. I've been very fortunate to have benefited from certain programs that cater to the customers that we talk about. And it's very empowering, and I'm very passionately stubborn and very respectful when it comes to trying to advocate for our communities, for all of our communities, right? For everybody in Washington, but most importantly for when there are situations where we need to make a little bit of improvements, a little bit of adjustments that benefit our customers. I'm very, very excited to bring that perspective, and I'm bilingual, and that in itself has some other challenges and barriers that if we haven't had that cultural experience, we might not have been able to bring that topic to the forefront. So thank you, Alberto. Thank you, everybody. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Ricardo. We can go to the next slide, please. So now I'd like to just briefly go over where we stand with our outreach performance. The key indicators that we track, of course, is outreach days and the number of farm workers that we've contacted. And what you've seen is, I know I announced last year that we were adjusting our migrant seasonal farm worker outreach footprint, where we were in our smaller offices looking to get more flexibility. But what I would want to highlight is that while we quote unquote only term 6 offices as significant versus 9 before that, our outreach remains steady still across the state. You'll see that as of end of January, we're at 799 days of outreach. So that's pretty in par with our performance from last year. And again, similarly with our farm workers contacted, we're seeing performance that's fairly on par with what we've done the year before. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we do, I know that our ASWS team talks about complaints, right? And their focus is mainly on serving foreign workers. Our focus is primarily domestic workers. And one of the things that I think you'll hear from our outreach team is that we promote the right to file a complaint, and we support farm workers in doing so. And as you can see, we've had a lot of complaint activity over the last 7 months, with 94 complaints reported and 3 apparent violations. I will say though, that about 90 of those complaints are tied to a large single employer. And those complaints have been referred to the Department of Labor and Industries for further processing, and appear to be tied to wage payment. Next slide, please.
Which region was that in, Alberta?
It is in the
It's in the Wenatchee and Okanagan.
Wenatchee, thank you. Thank you for your help. Right here, you'll see a breakdown of our outreach performance, and you'll see that in terms of farm workers contacted, our Central Basin office tends to lead the way. You have Luis joining us here today that can articulate some of that performance. But overall, we have a very seasoned outreach team. We have not had turnover in a few years in that team. Years not, then I'm all about growth and development, but we're very fortunate to have just such a strong, steady team in our state. Next slide.
Berto, before you go,
yes,
I forgot to ask on the previous slide. So none of those complaints are related to H2A. They're just purely domestic, U.S. domestic workers, correct?
So I know that the 90 are not H2A related. For the others, do you know, Jenna or Tim, by chance, if any of those were H2A related?
None were H2A.
Yeah. So it's ASWS that really handles anything H2A related.
Yeah, where you would see that pop up in this data is we will receive those type of complaints, and we'll refer those to ASWS. And so that's where you could see it represented in both data sets.
Well, you deal with domestic workers, so
yes,
they're going to make complaints about being not hired.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is Rosalinda. I have a question.
Yes.
There were no complaints in the northwest part, like Whatcom County or Snohomish?
They're all combined.
You don't have any there?
So, but we don't have them broken down by area at this time?
Not data. Right?
Okay. Yeah, we don't have it broken out right now, Rosalinda, but we can look into that and follow up, because we do have outreach logs by offices. So I should be able to follow up with you to confirm whether any of those were from that area.
Yeah, I would like them shown on this chart.
Okay.
Possible? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into that,
okay,
that feedback. Next slide, please. So now I'm starting to dive into, and this is the area where we have some work to do, but I know in the last meeting we got feedback. We want to start seeing more, how many farm workers are you serving through work source offices, not through outreach, but in our offices. And what you see the data here broken down is by the regions that we're broken into within my division. The central region being the center of the state, Okanagan down to Yakima. Of course, that's, really where a lot of our agricultural activity is really centered on. Of course, we have agricultural activity and labor happening statewide, but that is where it's strongest. And you'll see that as a result. Most of our farm workers are reported to be served in those offices in central Washington compared to other regions. The one thing that I found interesting is seeing that over the last 8 months, we've served almost the same number of farm workers we have previously served over the full last 2 years. So I found that pretty interesting to see the number of farm workers pick up. And Ricardo, I know I talked to you earlier about this, and would you mind if I just turn it over to you for some thoughts on why you might be seeing that in Central Region? Because of course you're connected to one of those offices that has seen those spikes. And if we can go to the next slide, I can show you what stood out to me, because we have it broken down by the offices with the most farm workers served. And again, you see Sunnyside there that has gone from serving 860 farm workers in 2023 to 2024 to now over 1,200 over just the last 8 months. So Ricardo, I would welcome your perspective in particular, and certainly Luis and Sal, if you have a perspective, welcome that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the points I definitely want to add on to what you had said, Alberto, is we haven't had a lot of turnover in our MSFW outreach positions in the central region. And one of the things that has been a result of that is that we've been able to have stronger outreach, not only just more time out in the field, but strategic outreach. One of the things that our outreach workers have been able to do is lean on partnerships, but not only just refer people. Hey, let's work together to figure out where our gaps are. And hey, let's get creative because now we're at a place where we trust each other, right? ESD, outreach worker, and community-based organization. We're at a place where we know where we're coming from and we're here to serve our community. So stronger outreach plans, more strategic outreach, stronger collaborations, and then as a result of all that hard work and collaboration, our offices have improved our intake system or the way that we register our customers into our platform. So the trust that they might not have had without the outreach, we have that trust. So our staff are out there making those connections. We're having other partners vouch in a sense for our services, saying yes, they are part of the state, but they're here to help. Our first question is, welcome to our office. How can we help you? Right. And so we try our best to make it a very smooth transition with not a lot of checkpoints, excuse me. So that way it's just a very smooth process for that customer to be helped. And one of the things, if I can just add, one of the amazing highlights that has been able to happen in the Sunnyside area specifically is our outreach worker has been able to develop a coalition of partnerships from various counties out in central Washington. And it's gotten so big that we have about 90 different partners on an email chain. And so we can kind of use this metaphor. We put out the bat signal, hey, we need help with this kind of service, or this customer needs a service in this kind of area. Can anybody help us? Boom. Within minutes, you can see that there's responses. Here's a link. Here's a form. Have them give me a call, right? That kind of stuff.
Thank you, Ricardo. And I do want to highlight, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask, clarify, these are numbers, these are MSFW or seasonal farm workers that are entered into your system, correct?
That we serve through WorkSource, yes,
Okay.
that are registered in our system.
Okay.
Yes,
Do
and that
you
we delivered a qualifying service to.
So that was my next question.
Yes.
Do you know what is the number one service that these farm workers are receiving, whether it's a referral to a training, a referral to
Yes.
a job, or job counseling, whatever?
So unfortunately, I didn't have the data enough time to package it for today's presentation, but I will be providing that to you moving forward. What I was able to glean over is that the top service provided is provided workforce information, followed by our reemployment services program, which is an unemployment insurance program. So the data is showing that those are the top two programs now. I know Ricardo and I also talked about that before this presentation. What I'm hearing from our offices is that we are getting a lot more questions about the economic outlook from our farm workers, whether it's learning more about what other farms are hiring or wanting to learn more about what other jobs are there outside of ag. So there's a lot that's encompassed around provided workforce information, but it seems that a lot of our farm workers are coming to us to ask more information about their local economies and routing them to potential opportunities. And then with our reemployment services, that is an unemployment insurance program. That is what I'll call a kind of like a required interaction. If you're on unemployment, you might, through a formula, maybe asked to come in for an appointment. And at that point, that's where we would do a pretty comprehensive assessment with you to look at your career pathway and to find employment opportunities and support services for you to power your career.
So I know that there's been at least a couple of closures that are ag businesses related. Could that be also the jump in number of farm workers coming into your office because they've been laid off, so they've been asked to come to WorkSource? Or I guess you'd have to kind of look at the data to know where the numbers are.
Can I prompt one of you
I can
Gentlemen,
speak on
to-
behalf
yeah.
of that. So that is a great question. One of the issues or one of the ongoing things that we have right now is, even if they're not completely unemployed at the time, the hours have dramatically shifted downward. So they're working 3-4 days a week as opposed to working the 40 hours. So that's one of the reasons why they come in, ask about other employment opportunities and other training opportunities as well. What I like to do personally is tell them to hold on to the job right now because the labor market right now is ever changing. And if anything arises where there's more hours, where there's a different type of employment that we can add, we'll definitely do so. But right now it's educating them on, hey, hold on to what you got. Don't jump the gun because right now everybody's under those 3-4 days a week. And then if there's any opportunities later on, we'll be able to let you know what's out there. So yeah, there's a lot of questions on that, and I've seen a lot of workers go down to 3 days a week, working Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So yeah, it's ever changing, but yeah, we'd like to make sure that there's that employment security first, and then peel down the layers from there and let them know what the options are.
I have a question. This is Rosalinda.
Yes.
Are you tracking the number of workers you're referring to farms that are bringing in H2A workers?
Yes, I believe we are. You want to speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, I mean, whenever they go through our office, through the job orders that we have created in the office, any MSFW that's referred, we document that. And then we also do a follow-up where we check to see if they're replaced. If yes, then we send it over to the ASWS team so they can do their field check. If no, then we follow up as to why not. And it has to be a valid reason as to why they didn't get hired. So a lot of the times it can be maybe that they found work elsewhere, or hopefully not, that they got denied because what we mentioned earlier, that they have H2A workers already. And if that is the case, then we do make an apparent violation and send it over to ASWS. But all that is tracked.
And that's included in this chart?
So the apparent violation that would be included in the complaint data that we communicate. And I know earlier in the presentation, the ASWS went over agricultural and clearance activity. I want to say, I think referral data is also packaged within the ASWS's report.
That's data that you're tracking and sending over.
That comes off from the same system. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And the only thing I want to highlight, and this is giving stuff for our monitor advocate to look into, is that I did find peculiar that our number in Yakima was so low. And I know that, speaking of turnover, we've had quite a bit of turnover there in that office. So it's something definitely we want to dig into, because Yakima, obviously in agricultural country, that does look a little low, and something we'll be digging into more further. Next slide, please. So I also just want to highlight that one of the key changes we've talked about before is we're not just emphasizing outreach in our areas with significant agricultural activity. We're emphasizing outreach across the whole state, and it's scaled, right, depending on the amount of activity. And what we're doing is we've created an expectation that all our offices are going to report on their outreach efforts and activity, not just our significant offices. So this hopefully will help us get a more complete picture of all our activities statewide. And as we look through that information, we'll look to bring that forward to this committee as well.
Yes. I mean, it looks like some great progress being made in terms of services to farm workers. And the one thing I just wonder is something changed at the office itself? I mean, there's the outreach workers and then there's the office. And I know that it's always been a struggle because the people in the office have a million different jobs they're doing, and there's not always been staffing for the people coming in person. That's been an issue, right? Because they have so many other things they're doing. But it looks like, given the services you're saying are being provided, has something changed at the office level?
Well, welcome thoughts. I think the one from an expectation perspective, our expectation is that all our offices should be equipped to serve a farm worker. Like, what we don't want to see is our office staff waiting for our farm worker staff to come to provide a service. They're out there, they're in our communities. And so we carry the expectation that we will have specialists to serve those individuals. And I know that at least in our agricultural significant areas, we have many bilingual staff ready and prepared to serve those customers. Now, the level of depth of service, it depends what the customer needs, and that's where capacity might come into play. Sometimes you might need to schedule an appointment. You're not able to go in depth and sit down with somebody to like build out a resume, for example. But I don't know, Luis and
Touching a little bit on that. Yeah, of course. I'm not gonna lie. I did have struggles at the beginning when I first started in my role, and maybe it was something that I was doing wrong. In referring people to office services. One of my job is go out there, refer people, make sure they go into the office, make sure they go into anywhere they need to. And a lot of the time, or not a lot of times, a few times, I know staff is overwhelmed sometimes and whatnot, and they're busy doing other stuff. I do acknowledge that. On a few of the situations, people have very limited time to go into these offices, you know. So they either take time off from work or they go at the very end when they can. So one of the problems that or one of the concerns that I was encountering is sending them back to me. So basically I was referring them to the office and then there was, oh, our NSFW staff is not here, here's a business card. And in the confusion, the customer would just be like, oh, okay, like maybe I misunderstood something, right? So it was interesting, and I think I tackled that from the very beginning, and Alberto was a big component, Todd was a big component when he was the administrator, and right now my administrator Laura have done a very good job in, hey, having that conversation. Luis is out there doing the outreach so that customers can come in or go into the offices and be served. You know, take those things and acknowledge those and work on that. And it did stop happening. I did stop getting those calls a while ago of being like, hey, I went into the office and they told me to contact you back, right? So we were able to solve that. It was a swift conversation, and also being able to tell the staff, hey, you know what? Ask them questions, peel back those layers. Know what they're here for, know if they talk to Luis yet or Saul yet, and what they're actually here for. So always ask those questions, those valuable questions. To know what the customer actually needs. Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell me how this works now with outreach to local places where farm workers might job? Yeah, so, and also the outreach to farms. I know the Sunnyside office, has done a particularly good job of outreach to local people, farms, and people up there. How do you guys coordinate that? You guys do some of that? Is that mostly local office or what?
So we are going to talk about that
after the
a little bit more. So that's a good jumping point from what Albert was saying to jumping into the presentation. But yeah, we will cover that. And if any additional questions come up, we'll be able to answer those. Yeah, that's good.
Speaking of that, let's move on to the next slide. And I think I am now transitioning to Luis and Saul, and they've prepared a presentation. I know they prefer to take questions at the end to get through, but certainly we'll take a burning question if they need to. So, gentlemen, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. I know I've introduced myself to a few of you guys here right now already, but I'll do it again for those that are virtual as well. My name is Luis Castillo. I'm the migrant seasonal farm worker outreach specialist out of the Central Basin office in Moses Lake. I cover Adams and Grant counties. So basically it's a lot of small towns over there. And it's funny because the Moses Lake office actually, or the Moses Lake area doesn't really have specific orchards. So my drives are always 25 to 30 minutes away, the shortest, and even an hour plus to Mattawa and other places that I cover as well. And a little bit of background about myself is I come from generation of farm workers as well. My grandparents came here, my parents came here, both worked on the farms. My parents also got into the restaurant business, dishwashing, anything that they could to make that extra income. So from a very young age, I learned the value of hard work, not taking anything for granted. Something peculiar about me is I was sent to Mexico at the age of 8 to study and basically continue my upbringing over there. And it was humbling, it was challenging, but I'm also very grateful because I got to see both sides of the coin. I got to do my basic education over there, came back when I was in high school. So it was challenging, but I loved to see both ends. I'm very passionate about my heritage. I'm very proud of it. So yeah, it got me to where I am and made me the person that I am. And I'm very grateful to my grandparents and parents for providing the opportunities that I've had that they didn't have. So yeah, next Saul.
Very well said. My name is Saul Montalvo. I'm the MSFW outreach specialist out of the Wenatchee Valley, aka the Apple capital of the world, if you've ever been over there. But I've been in my role for 3 years, going on 4 in April. Like we said, I also come from a farm worker background, generational. My grandfather came from the Bracero program during World War II to the California area. Both of my parents worked in the orchards. My father actually recently retired after 40 years. My mother also retired. She worked in the orchards and the fruit warehouses and eventually opened up her own daycare. And then, well, you know, growing up in the orchards, I grew up in the orchards, drove around the ATVs, the tractors, the little tractors, the gators. So I have a lot of fond memories. Into my teenage years, I worked in the orchards. So I know how difficult and hard working in the orchards is. But like I mentioned, my father worked in the orchards for 40 years and the apple does not fall far from the tree. So I had to hustle and, you know, make my dad proud. And now when I go out there and I talk to farm workers, I often think, what if this was my uncle, my cousin, my dad's friend? So I try to provide the best services possible. And I'm just glad that I can go out there every day and talk to these individuals. And I have a lot of respect for them. And I'm just happy to help them out in any way possible.
Next slide, please. And before continuing with this slide, that's all we'll, like we said, we invite questions. If it's at the very end, that's great. But if there's any burning questions, like Alberto said, we'll be able to field them as well.
Yep, and then we'll start with prioritizing domestic workers' access to job orders. So before the job orders even open up, I like to train our staff on where to find the job orders, how to do referrals, how to do follow-ups. Then also our communication, as we mentioned earlier, how do we refer people to the office, right? So when I'm out there and I meet somebody that's interested in a job order, I will gather information about them and also send that information to the office, letting them know ahead of time, hey, I referred this individual. Or sometimes you get 5+ MSFWs that are looking for a job order. So you really want to let the office know, because you guys know how busy we can get, right? The WorkSource offices. So just communication with the office. Also marketing flyers. I have ad contract flyers with my information on it, with the pull tab, with the pull tab that has my number and information about openings in the Wenatchee area, where MSFWs can call me at, explaining the contracts and gathering details about the MSFWs, explaining the duration of the contract, the requirements of the contract, the type of work they're going to be doing, and then gathering details about the MSFWs, like what type of work they want to do, where they're looking for work at, whether they have housing or transportation, because these ad contracts do come with transportation and housing, and that's a major barrier for MSFWs. And then promoting contracts at orchard visits. On that picture on the right, that was taken at Kyle Matheson Orchard, where I was able to present to, I think, 60 domestic workers and give them information about our services, speaking about access to job orders, and then also information about scholarships for their kids, housing, housing resources, OIC resources, and collaborating with community resources, attending different events where we table and give out information. Sometimes we're on the radio at these events, and just any way we can get the word out there, we will try to do. And then I wanted to share a quick story, highlight that I have just to bring it all together. Previously, like maybe 2 years ago, I had an MSFW who, like I mentioned, I have the marketing flyers posted at different locations. He pulled the number, gave me a call, told me that he was looking for work. I was able to refer him to the office and he was able to get placed. A few weeks later, his parents came from California. They were looking for work and couldn't find work. He let them know that how he was able to get placed through WorkSource. Then they gave me a call. Luckily, at this time, I was in the office and they lived a few blocks away. So we were able to arrange them to come in. We called the employer on the job contract. The issue we ran into was that the employer only spoke English and the MSFWs only spoke Spanish. So luckily I was there to bridge the gap, the language gap, and connect them. Then we ran into another issue. There's always issues, right? Was that they didn't know how to use a GPS. So we made a plan. I had them meet me at the WorkSource office at 5 in the morning. We met outside. I had them follow me to the work site. And luckily they were able to start work. And I even got to meet the employer, gave me a tour of the orchard. And I'm happy to say that they've been returning MSFWs that have gotten access to job orders year after year after year, and even brought another son with them to get a job order as well. So just a little bit, yeah.
So was this an H2A job you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and that it's obviously it's been years since I worked at Employment Security, but I remember back when we had the contract at a start date, and we had a lot of farm workers that would say they're interested in those jobs, but then come the start date, they wouldn't show up or they wouldn't call through. Not all of them, but most of them were that. Are you guys changing the way that happens and kind of staying in contact with them so that you check in to make sure it's like, hey, don't forget we got this job that you agreed to take? Is that happening?
Yeah, so luckily, if you ever go to our office, we have a bulletin where it has all the job orders that are open, and you can look through them, and we'll usually read them there and kind of talk about each one. The contract period, how long it lasts, the location, work sites, and depending which one best fits their needs, that's the one that we'll try to match them up. Now, a lot of the time, they have to do the recruitment before the H2As get there, so we do let them know that the contract period will start at this date, and we do follow up. Something that I've learned is that a lot of MSFWs won't wait that long. If it's a week or two, I mean, they're trying to find work today, right? Yesterday, they need the work. So if they could find work elsewhere, that's kind of where they kind of fall off. But I think we've had a lot of success following up with them and just matching up the job contract with their needs, their current needs, and letting them know not just them, but the employer, like, hey, he's ready to start ASAP, or she's ready to start ASAP.
Yeah. So, and then you've mentioned the job orders, all the H2A job orders. Are you including all, I mean, statewide, or are you only including the ones in your office?
We only include the ones in our office, but how I mentioned that I go out to the community and provide information about the job orders. A key information that I add to it is also letting them know that if they have family from other areas, for example, Yakima, Tri-Cities, and they want to work over there, or they want to come over here, we have job orders across the state.
Yeah.
And if they're interested in going somewhere else, and a lot of them are migrant workers that need housing, that's another benefit that they have with the job orders, that we can place them anywhere in the state.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking is because in the previous presentation, we found out that even though the order holding office is in Wenatchee, the employer may have some job sites in Yakima. So how do you make sure that the people in Yakima that don't have that job order know that, hey, there's an H2A job here, even though the employer or the order holding office is in Wenatchee?
Yeah, and a lot of the time between us MSFW outreach staff, we'll contact each other and be like, hey, there's this individual looking for work in Wenatchee. Can you contact them and kind of share more information about your area? And that's what we'll do. I know a lot of the time too, a barrier that they have is the distance. The job order might be in Wenatchee, but also in Mattawa. And they have to be able to go to both locations, and it's a 2-hour drive. So a lot of the time, that's another reason why MSFWs aren't getting those contracts. It's just too much time driving and gas prices, and there's just a lot of factors that go into it.
And a lot of the times we hear this straight from the farm worker. That's the one that calls us and kind of tells us, hey, my job order was in Mattawa, but I'm having to go to Wenatchee. Is that okay? And then, well, the details is what the employer had let them know. What are they providing? What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? How long are you going to be there for? And then if we do have to, I do notify Saul in that case, hey, I have a worker that's based out of the Mattawa office or Mattawa job site, but they're going over to Wenatchee. So I passed in your information in case they need to call you, any follow-ups or things like that. So between MSWs, we try to stay in touch and to make sure that we all have the information that we need when a customer calls.
So this is Rosalinda. I have a question. Are these bulletin boards with the job orders up in every WorkSource office?
Yes, they should be, at least in the Central Basin office, we do have it up. I don't know. I can't speak
No,
for it.
I'm just saying across the state. Is this a normal thing that every office needs to put up their job orders on a bulletin board like that? Like
I
a
would
practice,
think it's
you know?
a common practice in our significant offices. I don't know that it's a common practice, like if you go to our office in Rainier in Seattle, I'm not sure that they would have these type of jobs posted there. But in our agricultural areas, I've seen that they do. Arturo, I know you've been visiting some statewide. I don't know if that coincides with what you've observed.
Yeah,
We'll check WorkSource in Wacom and Skagit to see, but in the past, I know we haven't seen that. And that's something that I would think is like really important, that they be easily available for farm workers when they go in. I mean, the next trick is trying to get them to go into WorkSource on a regular basis to look for work. But nomás quería decir, darles la bienvenida a Luis y a, se me olvidó el otro nombre, pero muchas gracias. Esta es la clase del trabajo que hemos estado esperando para ayudarles a la gente que ya está aquí buscando trabajo. So I want to welcome them both, Luis and I forget his name. Anyway, welcome you both to this work. This is the kind of work we've been trying to make happen. So it really makes me happy to hear this. We're moving in the right direction. Muchísimas gracias por su buen trabajo. Es lo que se necesita hacer.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, Rosalinda. I appreciate the words.
I have a question back.
And we'll take your feedback for the Skagit office too. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're ready for the next slide. And then WorkSource services for domestic ag workers. The reason we're here and we were invited as well is because, like Rosalina said, we did hear that there were questions of how we're serving the local farm workers. So we highlighted some areas here. Training opportunities and safety awareness basically go hand in hand. Some training opportunities that we include but are not limited to is pesticide safety training, heat stress training, and just managing the elements out there. We have extreme weather over in our areas. So we're exposed to those type of things. And when it's extremely hot, we do let them know, hey, we're light colors. Don't wear anything that is darker color or the different material that will compromise the health out there. If it's cold, hey, bundle up. So all that. And then we also have included, I know Trooper Mosqueda, State Trooper Mosqueda, he, upon request, he'll go visit a site and then just let the local workers know about traffic regulations and the safety of being out there, how to stay safe. Not only you driving, but be aware of your surroundings. A lot of things happen in a fraction of a second. And if we can avoid those, that would be great. So it's a good element that we have added in recent years. And Trooper Mosqueda is excellent in explaining all these things. Don't drink and drive, etc. Don't speed, all those things. And then referral to ag jobs and non-ag jobs and resume labs or resume help. So in those resumes, basically in the office, the template, we have a template that we go based off of. We make sure the worker knows why we're adding things, why we're subtracting things. In all reality, an employer is not going to look at a 4 or 5 page resume, or they might, but the interest weighs down. So we try to keep it condensed into 1 or 2 sheets, and that way everything is there. Everything will fit there if you know how to put it in. So we do talk about that and explain the importance of it. And when we refer to ag jobs, we want to make sure we have the most updated information. The employers that we know that are recruiting at the time. For the non-ag jobs, obviously we want to keep our farm workers in the farm, right? It's something I'm on 2 minds of that, because I do want them to better themselves as well. And if we were able to provide those opportunities to do so, I think we're winning as well. So it is challenging, but if we come across any job seeker, any farm worker that is well qualified to transition out of non-ag jobs, even though it might hurt us personally, we're happy for them and for their families. And then on referral to complaints and referral to supportive services such as unemployment insurance or paid family medical leave. On referrals to complaints, I could talk a little bit about what my office has. As you guys saw in the pie chart from before, in Central Basin, by double, we're one of the biggest offices in the state with job orders. I believe we're up to 51 this year, and Chrissy, Laura, and Kelly do an amazing job on keeping up with all those job orders. So we are high in those, and I can't remember the last time I had a complaint. They're all local workers, of course, but if they're attached to a job order, we have to refer those to ASWS, even if it's a local worker. But my job is, scheduling them in, sitting down with them, peeling back those layers, asking the questions. If something, we try to handle everything at the lowest level possible. So if it's something that is a miscommunication, we'll try to jump on that, talk with the employer. If things can be solved, great. And if not, we move on to the next step, asking those questions, getting the best information that we can. We don't care about time spent with the worker. We will schedule the time to sit down with them, and we know that the office also does a good job at doing so when we're not available. So we do that. We ask questions. We refer out. And in my area, ASWS, I refer them to Jorge. He's always very timely in getting to these complaints and asking more questions if he needs them, or giving me a call. So we're always back and forth in what's going on in the area. And then share community resources and partner with community organizations as well. So I will mention the importance of doing so. I also have a story of 4 individuals that came over from Chicago a couple years back on the promise of having a job here for them, waiting for them, right? It wasn't a promise made by an employer, it was a friend. So when they got here to the Moses Lake area, they didn't know the name of the employer, and the friend had blocked them already. So after spending a night, I haven't met him yet, after spending a night in their vehicle, or they spent the night in a hotel, they had enough to pay for 1 night of hotel for everybody. And then the second night, they still had money to pay for, but they'd rather keep that money for emergency. So they spent the night in their vehicle. And by the next day, one of the, it's funny because they walked into a store, and I do outreach in the stores as well. Las tiendas mexicanas, we like to call them, Mexican stores. So they walked in, and they overheard their conversation of what was going on, and a person gave him my business card. So they contacted me that same day, and then I met him right away. I talked to them. We have an email chain as well. It's the importance of having those email chains and having the community know who we are and what we do. So I send it out to Goodwill Services, to all our MSFWs in the area, to Quincy and Moses Lake Community Health Center, OIC as well were included. Anybody that could provide insight of something that we needed quick. A few hours later, before the end of the day, I had an employee reach out to me and tell me that they could start the next day. He had a location where they could stay, so we went out there, gave me a tour of the place where they were going to stay and everything, and they were able to get hired right away. So having those contacts is important. Doing the outreach that we do is important. Partnering up with who we do is important for when these type of things happen. We're not left just standing there not knowing what to do. So yeah. Next slide, please.
All right, and I think we had questions about how we conduct our outreach or locations. I wanted to share, most of the time, I like to do orchard worksite visits and outreach at orchards, and I'll do this by contacting the employer. We are dual focused, so I do try to talk to the employer and let them know of our recruitment services, if any of their workers need any training, pesticide training, maybe English as a second language, basic computer classes, and then also, talking to the smaller growers and those rural areas where they may not know about our services, right? I think that's been my favorite part, going to orchards, and they're like, I've never had somebody from the government come and talk to us about these services, right? And just being able to expand on our services and let them know that, hey, if you ever have a question and you don't know who to contact, let me know. And we have a network of other nonprofits and other agencies that we work with, and we'll be sure to answer your question. And then outreach is done either, I usually plan it ahead of time, but there's community events that are every week, every month, bi-monthly, and then also seasonal. For example, I have some right here listed. Cafe Pachanga is a nonprofit. They usually close down a few streets and allow local vendors, state agencies, and businesses to come and table. They'll also have the radio there where we'll do a little segment about our services and kind of bring people there. and once again, expand on their services, provide flyers to people. CBCH mobile clinic, this is usually done in the summertime. They'll visit different orchards, and they'll provide health services and screenings for H2A and local workers. And I'll tag along with them and just kind of give information about our services. In the wintertime, I tend to lean more towards migrant student resource fairs. As you know, we're out there all year long, not just in the summer. So we have to really be diverse in our outreach efforts. Migrant campsites, Wenatchee's huge. In the summer, we get a lot of workers from out of state, in state, out of the country that come and work, and our migrant campsites get filled. So oftentimes it's referring them to other, like the Wenatchee Housing Authority, or giving them services about our ag contracts, complaint system. And then, as I mentioned, food banks, I attend those pretty regularly. And then provide outreach anywhere where MSFW is gathered. So laundromats, Latino stores, post offices, and libraries. And as you can see that picture, I think that was at Rocky Pond in Arundel. I know the foreman there. I stop by every once in a while, just kind of get an idea of what type of work they're doing, if there's any barriers that they see. For example, this year with the light snowfall, they're a little bit cautious with the wildfires that are going to be approaching in the summer. So that's something that we're going to keep an eye on. Next slide.
And then this showcases a little bit of the outreach that we do out there, what it looks like. Like Saul said, we like to diversify our outreach. No day looks the same. Yeah, we like to be out there in the farms and orchards as well, but we acknowledge that it needs more than that, so we always have to think about where they work, live, and gather. And some of these cases, it could be at a farm, it could be at an orchard, it could be outside events, inside events. It just depends on the weather, depends on the season. But it's important to have these highlighted to let the workers know that these events are going on. And in the case of where they can't make it up to the events, we have the information. Like, for example, in events, I like to be she's mostly a little bit nosy. I'll leave my post for a little bit, and I'll go and actually network with the people and resources that I don't know or haven't met yet. And that way I gather their information. I take flyers. And for my next visit, I like to have fresh material. I don't go to do a visit just because, just to talk with them, just so they can see my face, right? That's not the case. So I like to research what's out there, what's new, what resources are there, anything that we may not know of. We know there's ever shifting services as well. So anytime these pop up, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I like to have these, and then I'm excited to print those to provide those materials. And so the farm workers have all the information that they need. Next slide, please. So frequently asked questions from MSFWs. As you guys can tell, and maybe you guys have been asked some of these questions as well. Some include sick time, unemployment insurance, paid family medical leave, overtime regulations, and any additional questions depend on season and current events. I'll give an example in a bit. Right now, I do want to hit the overtime regulation. I know that came to the law a couple of years ago. One of the big events is having employers and actually farm workers be worried about this. And there was a lot of rallies, especially in my area, the Royal City, Tennessee area. I attended those, not as CSD. I just wanted to get the feel of what the farm workers were thinking, what the employers were thinking. Our local leaders were involved as well. And local leaders, I mean of the city, not ESD, to try and take these changes and take all this feedback to here to Olympia. And I know they came here, I think a day and whatnot. At the end of the day, we do let them know that these are not decisions made by us. At the end of the day, they are government decisions and they are out there. But yeah. Barriers and concerns in the community. Need for more awareness of workforce and community resources. We are very aware that if it wasn't for our farm workers, we wouldn't have a job, right? So dating back to when we were young, I'm very grateful and even more grateful now to serve the community that we serve and be proud of the way that we do it. So anytime there's anything new, we do like to bring it up and have them updated. Language barriers and technology barriers. So limited access to education or training and limited awareness of free services. As well, to continue your education in most of the cases, if they're wanting to continue their education for themselves, or to get certified on certain trainings, they need to have a basic understanding of English and the basic knowledge of English, of the English language. And this is mostly because of safety regulations as well. So any type of ESL classes that we have in our area, we're able to promote. That way, they know where they're at. Anytime that it's registration, time for open registrations, I let them know, hey, contact them, sign up, because at least in my area, we do have a pretty long list of waiting time for our beginners classes. Technology as well, it's ever changing, ever shifting, with scams, with people not very well versed in technology. We try to let them know, hey, if it's official, these are the things that you need to look for. If you have to pay something, please refrain and give us a call. We try and aim for free services. And the case where we see a great opportunity that comes with a cost, we usually try to contact some of the partners that we have, like OIC, to see if they qualify to get some of these fees waived. And then legal status inquiries and unstable employment and labor market. So knowledge of the law and complaint retaliation. We like to tell them, we listen to every concern, we like to ask questions, but at the end of the day, we're not lawyers. We don't pretend to be. If there's any questions that we don't know, we'll just say, hey, we don't know that. Let me get back to you, or let me refer out. In this case, we do have two organizations that we like to refer out to. And I've spoken with WASN, which is the Washington Integrated Solidarity Network, based out of here, but they cover the whole state. And then the Northwest Justice Project as well. I have a great relationship with Mariana. She does a great job. So any type of question that they have regarding to that, we send a referral their way. I believe there's a new person hired as well for the referrals, and he takes those calls and also does a referral himself, meets up with them, whatever they need to take care of, they can take care of in a timely manner, and they're great with it. I believe that's all we have. So we're going to open it up for questions. If you guys still have any questions, yes, ma'am.
I have 3 questions. First of all, how do you see the labor market for domestic workers? Is it increasing at all, the number of domestic workers being dragged up? Increasing, decreasing, stable, decreasing?
You know, it's ever shifting as well. In recent years, I know I was kind of worried of our domestic workers just kind of waning away, and it seems like in the past year plus, we've revitalized those efforts, and there's more people either coming back to ag or looking for jobs in ag. So it was a concern that I've had, and it's not a concern that goes away. It's never going to be a concern that goes away. But seeing those numbers pop up as well when the labor market is difficult for everybody is also good to see.
Okay, second question, what do you see as the trend for migrant workers in our state? I imagine it changed after Trump got in office, but over the last, say, 5 years, what is the trend line been with migrant workers trying to work?
Well, in that regard, I haven't seen big changes in regards to like the job works. As you can see, we still get a bunch of those. There are a lot of more questions that we do field that they give us a call about, questions. And a good point on that is try to not, we tell them try to not follow social media gossip. But there are official channels that will let you know if anything is going on to stay safe out there. But don't try and, hey, I heard from La Comade, a friend of mine, that they're detaining people here and here that's going into the work site. At least in my area, they were never able to establish going into people's place of business. But we have had that, and the people coming every year, at least in my case, in my office, it's still pretty steady. I would say I will speak on maybe behalf of the Wenatchee Valley, but my job orders haven't really gone down.
Yeah, for me, when it comes to migrant workers coming from other areas, their biggest concern is the crops. How are the crops looking? 2 years ago, we had a freeze that wiped out all of our cherries, pears, right? And so a lot of them are calling it. Well, I don't tell them don't come. I just tell them, hey, look, this is what I see. if you want to contact this foreman or where, maybe give me an idea of where you want to work, and I can get you a foreman and you could, contact each other and he can give you a better idea of how the situation is looking, but I think it just varies on the year. Right, the year, the crop, it's agriculture, we don't know. It's the weather, there's so many different factors that come into it that we really don't know until we get closer to the season, and I think, yeah, that's our best bet.
Yeah, well, I asked that because things change everywhere, and, let's say in California, where a lot of people who come up for cherry harvest come from, things might change there, the economy might change there, and as many people coming up. I just want to get your firsthand view on it. It sounds like it's stayed fairly stable.
Yeah, and Mattawa, I know a couple years ago that this is why basically my concerns came, because there was one year when I usually try to go to the housing authority in Mattawa whenever cherry season starts, because they do the whole sign up process for the housing and everything. And one year was just it wasn't popping. So in that scenario, I was very concerned and whatnot. And then in being able to touch base with them, it seems like it's kind of stabilized a little bit more, and we're starting to get those numbers up again. But yeah, your question is very valid, because it just depends on the year. It depends on the year, it depends on the crop, it depends on the weather, it depends on if people are wanting to migrate, if they still have employment in California or not, or other states. So it's ever changing, and we try to adapt to that.
Okay, and last question was about immigration enforcement and the psychology of fear. And what kind of behavior changes have you seen? Well, in domestic workforce, do you see people, with regard to their job search, do you think it's getting in the way of people getting jobs? Where people are staying home and not looking for jobs, or what is it?
At least for me, I haven't seen a change yet. When I go out there, obviously they express their concerns. They ask, hey, have you seen ice or something? And, I just kind of tell them, I'm not too sure. You can always check, follow, certain, non-profits or orgs that will give you better information. But, I haven't really seen change. I think people are still out there working. Obviously, bills aren't gonna stop. Everything costs a lot, so people are trying to work. And I think especially MSFWs are very prideful of their work, and they will always try to show up no matter what.
In my area, I'll speak on behalf of my area as well. A lot of it is that, and usually in the last few months as well, it has gotten that way. At the beginning, there was a couple of scenarios that happened in my specific area that kind of made people fearful of leaving their homes. So it did happen for a little bit until everything just kind of steady, I'd like to say. But yeah, I got a call from employers saying, hey, workers are not showing up. Do you know what's going on? Do you know what's going on? I got a call from workers, hey, we're not showing up because we're not safe to leave the house. And we saw on social media, we saw here and here and here that they're all over right now. And some of those concerns were valid, because we did have situations happen where people did get detained. But just going back and forth with that, we do like we feel those calls, and we try to ease their mind, but also be very honest in regards to things. At the end of the day, we can't do anything to stop things. And like I said, if they have any specific questions about law regulations or anything like that, WASN and Northwest Justice Project have done a tremendous job in letting people know their rights and what's out there and what to expect, how to best behaviors, how to be safe out there and stay safe. Thank you.
I think that, Mike, and this is Rosalinda, I think when we first began working on this committee, that was one of our biggest concerns, that the migrant workers were not coming north. And I still think that some of the reasons that they don't come up is because they hear that the jobs that they used to come up to do were filled by H-2A workers. And I think that that's still a concern, that if farm workers hear that some of these big companies that used to hire a lot of migrant workers, there's H-2A workers doing that work now. And I think that has, to a certain extent, affected the migrant population coming north. So, but I mean, I think that was part of the work we were going to do, right? To look and see what was the real availability of local workers for the farms? Was there really a worker shortage or not? So I think that I'm really glad that we continue to work together on this and figure this out so that the farm workers that have been, especially in Washington State for generations, still have access to these jobs. So I think it's a concern because no matter what, the industry still needs a certain amount of migrant workers during peak harvest seasons in the different crops.
Any questions to folks after?
I don't have a question, but I just want to, thank you both for being here. And, I used to, I don't know if you guys knew this, but I used to work at a Social Security and I used to manage workforce offices. And one of the things that I've always said, and I said in the committee, is that to be a true migrant seasonal farm worker, outreach worker, farm workers need to know you by name and understand who you are. And if they can come into a town and say, go talk to Luis or go talk to Saul, that's it, you made it, that's it. And that's what it should be. So I think you guys have gone to that point. So fun doing what you're doing.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
I totally agree with that.
Yes, Luis, so thank you so much for this presentation. It's really helpful. It's good to see how your day-to-day work is happening out the door.
Thanks for inviting us. Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right. Roberto, any more in your report update? No. That's good. All right, Vicki, let's go to the next slide. I think I know what it is. Yes. So I'm going to turn it over to Bertha, and this is our report writing year, committee members.
Let's go back to Saul.
We're not going to get into We're not going to get into substance today, but I did want Bertha and Vicki to run through the timeline of what the year is going to look like, so you know what's coming up and what set pieces we'll be doing and where we'll be having conversations. So Bertha, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Joy. I know I'm feeling the same way. I was really inspired by Luis and by Saul, and so it's hard to follow, but the good news is that no substantive work today, just kind of a rollout of the timeline and the work that we have in front of us these next really 6 months. So if we could advance to the next slide. So as you know, the RCW that created this office, this committee, requires the committee to submit a report to the legislature every other year that does two things: that describes the activities of the ASWS office and also explains and addresses the budget. So the report is in really those two parts. And since I've been here, this will be my second report, but I believe this will be we've been through 2 report writings. This committee's submitted a total of 3, so this will be number 4. And just to kind of give a general kind of idea about this report, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, and we want this document to be actually something that the legislature is going to tune into, that's not going to feel overburdensome, and that's really going to highlight our work and our ideas and how we are utilizing the resources. So just as a tentative timeline, the kickoff internally is going to be around April 7th. And this kickoff is basically going to be a plan between government relations and our office as to how we're going to work together in composing, moving this report through. And so we will provide the committee with a draft. And this draft is going to be like data, an update to the 2024 report, basically things that you don't have available to you, like number of field checks, site visits, outcomes, complaints, just in a general unpacking of what the committee has been up to for the last 2 years. Then part 2 of that will be a budget, which will unpack the FLC grant and also how our legislative funding has evolved during this reporting period. As you remember, in 2025, we were the beneficiary of a decision package that gave our unit some more resources and also some resources on the workforce development side. This is a report that's also focused on ASD's domestic recruitment efforts, and so it's also going to be describing the outreach and the activities that Luis and Saul spoke about today. So by mid-May, this body should expect a initial draft for review. And then by the May 21st meeting, this group should come prepared to discuss change requests or feedback, and ESD will revise the report draft based on those. In June, you'll have a second draft to review, and then we want to wrap up final committee edits by July 16th. Final review will happen in July, and then hopefully we'll be to a place with a report that this body will make a move to approve the report as it's written. So the report is published, released on October 31st of every reporting year, but it does need a runway of about 2 months to go through an accessibility review, to go through, I think, an OFM review, just to make sure that it's all aligned with other reports that are expected. So October 31st is our published date. So we've got a lot to accomplish over the next few months. The last, the 2022 and the 2024 report included recommendations to the agency by this body. 2024 was mostly an update on the progress of the 2022 recommendations. Those recommendations are not required in the statute, but it's something that this committee could continue to include if they want to. We want this report, though, to be focused and, like I said, useful to the legislature as a tool and as a reference. So we're open to committee feedback about, what should be included in the report.
So the first draft, May 21st.
Yes, the first draft you will have in the middle of May with time to review it before our midterm appointment. Yeah. And we work from there.
And Joy, I don't know about others, but I can barely hear the room. So I think I heard that the question was about when a first draft delivered.
That is correct. So mid-May, we will circulate it to the committee, the first draft for as a discussion item, the main discussion item for our May 21 meeting. Do you have
Any questions? As always, we'll lead you through this. I think that over the last few iterations of this report, ESD's internal processes have gotten stronger. We've already been through this a couple of times, so hopefully this will be, kind of feel familiar and not as anxiety provoking as in years past.
We're starting to get a rhythm to this. This is what, the fourth report, third report? I remember 24. I can't remember if there was one in 20.
There was a 2020 report.
Okay, so this is our fourth time.
But initially, the committee had more of the report, and then it has been nice that the department has been doing more of the work.
That is
how Bertha feels about it has made it easier.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay, well, more to come, and like I said, we'll do our best to make this as easy and straightforward for all of you.
All right. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much, Bertha. Let's go on to the next slide.
Bertha, I had a question.
Yeah.
On these
ma'am.
meetings, when we're going to discuss the report, is the bulk of the time in our meetings going to be for that?
There will be a scheduled segment, and also I believe that we've built in a special meeting into our 2026 meeting schedule in case we need it to stay on track. I think we'll see how the report continues to evolve. I know in 2022, the labor members and the industry members each wanted to provide perspectives and from their own perspective. And so there was some committee work that was led by the subcommittees of this group. If the board wants to go in that direction this year, then it could involve something like that. But we're happy. ESD is happy to support that however we can.
Thank you.
Rose, what you're asking is, can we devote a good chunk of time at the May meeting to the report? Yes, we can.
Exactly. Thank you so much. That's good.
Right. Let's go ahead to the next slide. We are at the good of the order. We are a little ahead of schedule, so I want to offer our committee members an opportunity for just general discussion. If you have any topics that have come up, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to where I can see faces. If faces come up.
I have a question, just, did anything happen at the session that we should be aware of in terms of the committee that will impact the work that we discussed?
From the specific, general, yeah. From the specific agriculture side, there were a couple bills that we kept an eye on that don't directly impact our work, but we're keeping an eye on the immigrant worker rights bill, which we're keeping a close eye on. There was some discussion of how agriculture and seasonal work is treated under the state Layoff Notice Act. That didn't cross the finish line. I was talking with Mike a little bit about that at lunch. The agency is going to be approaching that from how do we fairly treat seasonal work in that space to do some stakeholder work on that through the summer. So with the potential for looking at legislative package next year, that's parallel to this. It won't specifically be ASWS, but it touches the community.
What was that bill again, Joy, that you're gonna look at during the summer?
So looking specifically at how we handle notification for seasonal work under layoffs.
The little Warren Act?
Yeah, the state
Okay.
Act.
Okay.
We've called it 14 different numbers and 14 different names, I know. But we are working to get some consistency around how that is. Okay. Alberto, do you have anything on the workforce side that?
Warren is the only thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
And what I saw with Warren was just technical changes like excluding tribes from those requirements and which was big. But yeah, I can't think of anything major on the workforce side beyond Warren.
Yeah, we had two technical changes that we needed. One was excluding tribes from the definition of employer so that we were, commensurate with federal law. And the other one was ensuring that we had the right to hold back the personal information of the employees being laid off, which was a gap in the original bill, and we needed that gap plugged so that we could hold that safe. So those two changes together. But yeah, honestly, we sort of went through the back half of the session with our fingers crossed and staring at each other like, don't say anything, but it felt like they kind of ignored us this year, and that's okay.
The focus was on the millionaires.
Yes, exactly. Budget's as okay as it's going to be. There are definitely challenges. We did, is what it is. not too much chaos beyond what we got last year. So. What else? Any other topics you want to chat about? Okay. Let's go ahead to make sure we got public comment. Vicki, could you go to that screen where I read the thing? Thank you. All right, so we're going to open to public comment now. If you'd like to make a public comment, including any suggested future agenda items, please state your name and spell it so we can capture it correctly for the minutes, as well as the organization you represent, if any. Your comments are being recorded. However, if you would like the comments to be included in the meeting minutes, please submit them in writing via email to Vicki Carlson at the email address she just dropped into the meeting chat. And please limit your comments to 2 minutes. Do we have anyone on the Zoom meeting who would like to make a public comment? I am not seeing any. So I'm going to go ahead. And let's go ahead to our final slide. All right, folks, with that, I think we will call this meeting to a close. We meet next Thursday, May 21st, virtual 9 to noon, and we will have a good chunk of that time to talk about the report that you will get ahead of time. And thank you all for participating in a really good meeting. It was great to have a lovely, engaged discussion. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to all who joined us online.